Last meeting we discussed on states, and we also discussed on excuse me for a while. And last meeting we discussed on states. Okay, sorry. Okay, so once again, last meeting we discussed on states, and as much as I recall, we discussed on the definitions of states based on the various proponents like Kirchner, Weber, Poland, and also we discussed on the four elements of the states. To give you a recap on what we had discussed on the four elements, we discussed on um, population or people, territory, government, and sovereignty. We also discussed on the origin of the states or origins or the theories of the origins of the states, the differences between state and the nation, and the three inherent powers of the government, which includes the police power, the power of eminent domain, and the power of taxation. So today we'll be able to talk on political power. So allow me to share my screen on our lesson for this week. Ayan lang. Okay, so can you see my screen now? Nakikita niyo na po yung screen ko?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, so before we proceed, siguro baka makalimutan ko lang. So we'll be having our activity after this discussion or after this lesson, and the activity is already published in our Canvas. Please check your Canvas. It's already open. It's already published, but the due will be next week, March 3. So at 10:20 red. So I just want to reiterate that once the activity became due, I will not reopen anymore. And next week after our discussion, we'll be able to have our quiz. Kasi alternate tayo, di ba? Activity, quiz. So I hope that you will be prepared for our quiz. I hope that everything is set during our quiz, your internet, you know, your schedule, what else. So sana makapag-quiz po tayong lahat, because I will not be reopening the quiz once it's done. Okay? So yes, Mr. Masangkay. Anong PM? Yung mag-ano ka nga, mag-thumbs up ka nga ulit sa akin. Baka hindi ko nabasa yung PM mo. Okay, so mag-thumbs up ka dito sa Messenger. Sa Messenger kasi baka hindi ko lang para makita ko yung message mo. Okay, so we are now on our discussion on political power. And before we dive into our lesson or topics or subtopics, allow me first to introduce what are the learning outcomes of our discussion for today. So we say, what do we expect? So at the end of the week, students should be able to first articulately define power. Second, understand the features and dimensions, including the methods of exercising national power, and explain the different types of political authority. So everything that is included in our learning outcomes are actually part of our discussion for today. So let's move on first with our first objective, which is to define power. Actually, when I every time I heard the word power, it always come to my mind the word status, di ba? That's that's according to what I understand power before, di ba? Pag naririnig ko yung power, it always come on my mind yung word na status, because power can be uh, can be done or can be exercised depending on the status of a person. Di ba? Parang ganon. If you are strong, then you can be powerful. If you are rich, then you can be powerful. So that's actually my notion. So every time I heard the word power, the first word that comes to my mind is status. Okay, so I think that you have also word that that comes on your mind every time you heard the word stat a power. So any volunteer, ano kaya una nating naisip pag sinasabi nating power, di ba? O kapangyarihan. Pwede nating sabihin na it's all about people, di ba? Kasi pwede rin nating matawag na kapangyarihan ang ang tao, 'di ba? So it's all up to you. So how would you define power on your own? Yes, Mr. Manalili.
Influence po para sa akin.
I'm sorry.
Influence po.
Influence, 'di ba? That's correct. So pwede ring influence. Yes, Miss Alicante.
For me po, power is how you can control your everything that surrounds you.
Yeah, control, 'di ba? So nakaipon-ipon na tayo ng mga words natin, 'di ba? We have ano word ko kanina? We have status, we have influence, control. Mr. Basilio,
Simple words po, leader.
leader, 'di ba? It is because you cannot have power if pag leader kasi it always accompanied with with the word power. Kasi kailangan 'yon sa isang leader. Okay, it's good. Mr. Masangkay, position, di ba? If you are in a position, sabi nga nila if you are in a position, you are in power. Di ba? Parang ganon. Okay, next, Miss Bamba.
For me po, power is associated with wealth, with money po.
Yeah. Power is associated with money. Power is associated with wealth. Di ba? Sa mga napag-aralan natin nung una pa. Sinabi natin mayaman, then they have the power. So there's a lot of words that can be associated or that can be connected with the word power. The word power is very broad. According to Morgenthau, power is actually the power of man on others. So mean to say the power of or the ability of the man to impose its will, diba? In order for him or her to achieve his or her desired goals. It's actually the ability of man to influence others. It's the ability of the man to control other people in order for him or her to get his or her desired goal or objective. So those are the main definition kinds of power. So according to Schwarzenberger, power is all about punishment. So mean to say, it is the ability of the person to impose his will, and if you fail to do it or if you fail to comply with the will of that person, then you will be punished or you will be sanctioned. So ibig sabihin, sabi ni Schwarzenberger, power can also be connected with punishment or sanction. It is because you can earn power by imposing or by inflicting punishment against a person or against an organization if that person did not comply. did not comply of your of the things that you want to do. Okay, so that's according to that's according to Schwarzenberger. According to Charles Lecture, power is all about offering reward. Power can be exercised through offering or through giving rewards or through promising a certain reward. You have to do it, and after you do it, then you will be rewarded. So you can also gain power by giving reward or by giving or offering any material thing. So that's according to Sletcher. And according to social science and politics, power is the ability. It is the ability to control or ability to influence the behavior of the people, maybe based on different ideologies, based on different theories. So that's actually power according to social science and politics. It is actually the ability of of a person to influence others to control their behaviors. Okay, so those are the many kinds of or many kinds or of definition of power according to different sources. Pag makikita nyo dito, the definition of power according to Mergenthau is very broad. It is very broad. According to Schwarzenberger, power is all about punishment. According to Fletcher, power is all about reward or offering reward. According to social science and politics, power is all about influence. Okay, but we'll be talking about national power. So what is national power then? Ano yung tinatawag na national power? It is actually a combination of the word national and power. It's actually a combination of national. When we talk about national, then we are talking about nation. Then we are talking about states. So when we talk about national power, this is actually the ability or capability of a nation or a state to impose its will in order for him to secure his desired goals or objective. So that is national power, and there's a lot of there's a lot of ways in order for a nation to exercise its power. Okay, so it's very simple. It is very simple that in national power, it is the power of the state to impose its will in order for the nations acquire or to secure its own desired goals and objectives. Okay, so actually this is similar to what we had what we had mentioned. So when do we say that power or force, or I mean, when do we say that power can be used through force and power can also be used through influence? Okay, so when we talk about power through force, when we talk about force, this actually refers to physical force. This is actually to violence. So ito yung paggamit ng violente or paggamit ng dahas para ma-achieve ang kagustuhan ng isang estado o kagustuhan ng isang bansa. And with this, power is being replaced by force. If in securing a nation's desired goal or desired objective, the nation uses physical force, which actually resulting into war, then the word power can be replaced into a word force. Whereas in influence, this is more democratic. This is more diplomatic. But it is because this is just a matter of the matter of persuasion. We are trying to influence or we are trying to secure the desired goal, or the nation is trying to secure its desired goal or objective by means of influence, by means of persuasion. So in that case, power is being used or power is being replaced into influence. Okay? So next, let's move on to dimensions of national power. So these are the sources. These are the sources of national power. I don't know if you already encountered this lesson, especially those who are graduate of Humes, di ba? And gas. Diba? Kasi napag-aralan natin itong mga to nung tayo ay nasa senior high school tayo. Di ba? The dimensions of national power or sources of national power. Ano-ano nga ba yung areas na kailangan patatagin ng bansa na pwede maging source ng kanilang national power or para ma-secure nila ang kanilang mga desired goals or objectives over other states or over other nations. Okay, so these are, the dimensions or sources of national power. So we have the economic power, we have the military power, and we have the psychological power. And these powers are inseparable. Sabi nga dito, without economic power, no nation can develop her military power. Bakit? Siyempre, paano ka ba naman makakapagtatag ng isang malakas na sandatahang lakas if you cannot sustain them financially? O paano ka naman makakabili ng mga matalakas na armas if you cannot afford to buy those weapons? That is why without economic power or pag walang if a nation is not economically inclined, then the nation has no way to develop her economic power. And without the latter, no nation can play an active role in international relations. So ibig sabihin, the nation cannot in any way gives a good image in international community which give him, na hindi pwede maging confidence sa kanyang ibang mga nations. But if a nation can develop, this two, then absolutely a certain nation has developed his psychological power. Later on mapapag-aralan natin yan as we go through it with our succeeding slides. So mean to say these three powers or three dimensions of national powers are inseparable. We are interdependent with each other. So what is this military power? Ano nga ba itong tinatawag nating military power? And this is one of the most important dimensions of national power. And what is the importance of military power to a nation? Of course, this military power of a nation may be used to secure its security or national security and safety. So, ito yung tinatawag na kapangyarihan ng isang bansa pagdating sa sandatahang lakas, pagdating sa kasundaluhan, kasi sila ay nagbibigay ng seguridad sa isang bansa. They cannot just be down. Hindi sila pwedeng basta-basta what they call this? Ano tawag doon sa I don't know how to I don't know the right word to use, pero anong tawag doon pag may nag-aaway yung pag may nag-aaway tapos hamunin. I'm sorry. Hindi sila basta hamunin ng ibang mga bansa, especially if they are stronger than those nations. It is because they are dominant in military power. Walang mangyayari. 'Di ba? So in the world, we have the G8. Diba? Meron tayong tinatawag ng mga G8. And they are being recognized because of their dominance in military power to the world. Kaya ang tawag sa kanila, they are military superior, they are superpowers. Diba? May mga bansang superpowers. Ano yung mga bansang yon? US, di ba? Russia, Japan, Germany, France, Italy. So those are the countries which can be called as superpowers. It is because they are very dominant. They have dominant military power compared to other nations or to other states in the world. So they can just secure their national security easily. It is because they have this kind of power. Okay? Next is economic power. Diba? That's actually the second most important dimension or source of national power. So economic power refers to how rich and how developed nations are, 'di ba? In compared to other nations in the world. Sabi nga natin, no nation economic power should go together or should go along with, with military power. Sabi nga natin, paano nga din ba naman makakabili ng armas ang mga bansa if they are not economically, if they are not economically high. So when we talk about economic power, this is, the power of a nation in terms of their economy. So it's either if you are rich, then you can be you are powerful. If you are developed nations, then you can be powerful. So that's economic power. And with those two, economic and military power, a nation can actually create its reputation and image, diba? An image. So mean to say, their statement always matters. Bakit nga ba? Bakit nga ba every time na may mga summit, di ba? Or summit sa sa ibang mga bansa, lagi nilang hina-highlight ang pagdating ng mga leaders ng mga mayayaman, mga powerful na mga nations. It is because they have something to say in international community. They have created their reputations, they have created their good image, so their opinion, their statement always matters. So that's actually psychological power. Okay. Next is let's move on to the methods of exercising national power. So paano nga ba, ano nga ba yung mga paraan ng iba't ibang mga bansa para ma-secure nila, di ba? Para ma-secure nila or para ma-achieve nila ang kanilang mga desired goals and objectives over other nations or over other countries. So those are the ways on how nations exercise their national power in order for them to secure their desired goals and objectives. First is through persuasion. Diba? The first is through persuasion. It's a matter of it's a matter on how this country you know convince, diba? Or persuade other nations or other countries. So this is more diplomatic and this is more democratic in approach. Especially those nations which are powerful in terms of economy, in terms of military, they can actually persuade or they can actually change or influence the behavior of other nations or other states. So that is persuasion. So a nation can actually exercise its national power through persuasion. Okay. Next is through reward. Diba? It's actually offering, diba? It's actually offering rewards. So it's either material rewards, either economic rewards, or either granting economic aids and loans, diba, to other nations. So pwede nilang secure or pwede nilang ma-achieve ang kanilang desired goals and objective through offering, diba? Through offering rewards. So, ang daming mga bansa who are giving rewards or loans to us. So that's how other nations exercise their national power by offering rewards or giving rewards. Next is punishment, di ba? Punishment, especially in economy, especially in trading. Diba? Sabi nga dito, the most effective punishment is one which secures the desired objective of a state without the actual infliction on other states. Threat of punishment is better method of exercise of national power than actual infliction. So, a country or a nation can actually exercise um, their national power by the use of punishment or by inflicting punishment over other states, o yung tinatawag na they can actually impose economic sanctions to other states. Okay? And lastly, by force or physical violence, which actually resulting to war. Diba? As a country or a nation can actually achieve their own desired goals through war. Kasi when we talk about force or physical violence, then we are talking about war. So especially those countries which are very dominant in military power, they can always make use of this method to acquire or to secure their desired goals and objectives by the use of force or by the use of physical violence. Okay? May sometimes resulting into war. And ayan. Next is authority, di ba? Authority. So what do you mean by authority? Authority is the right or the capacity or both to have proposal or prescription or instruction accepted without recourse to persuasion, bargaining, or force. Actually, this is the third statement is actually the most simple and the pinakamalinaw na definition ng authority. Authority can be defined as legitimate power. So we mean to say it has basis. Okay, so what are the different types of political authority? So first we have traditional authority. This is the longest standing belief and practices of the society. So that authority in this type of political authority, the authority is rooted into a tradition. Diba? Kung ano yung um, nakagawian nung una, di ba? The authority can be based on traditions. It can be based on belief. It can be based on on norms of of the previous or society. So ibig sabihin, the authority ay pwedeng magmula or pwedeng manggaling with our or through our tradition. Okay? Next is charismatic authority. So ano nga ba yung paano nga ba natin pwedeng i-describe yung taong may charisma? Paano natin i-describe yung taong may charisma? O will volunteer? Di ba pag sinabing may charisma, sige Miss Alicante, di ba ano ibig sabihin pag may charisma ka sa tao?
Pag po sinabing malakas yung karisma ng tao, ibig sabihin malakas yung dating niya or malakas yung appeal niya, ganun.
So ibig sabihin, when we talk about charisma, it talks about a quality, di ba? The quality of a person. Malakas yung dating mo, malakas yung appeal mo. So ibig sabihin, you can be followed. You can be followed because of your appeal, di ba? Because of your dating. So that is one actually of types of political power. 'Di ba? Katulad halimbawa si Joseph Estrada, 'di ba? Si Joseph Estrada, malakas ang dating niya sa tao. Artista siya, 'di ba? Artista siya. Tapos magaling siyang makipagbarilan sa pelikula. 'Di ba? Kaya niyang patayin ang 1,000 tao kahit mag-isa siya. Malakas ang appeal niya. So, mean to say, we can actually apply that, we can actually that manifest nagma-manifest diyan yung tinatawag na charisma. It's all about, the qualities of a person or a quality of a leader na pwede nating tignan. Oo nga pala napakaganda ng dating nito. Parang it worth followed for. Diba? So that's charismatic authority. And lastly, we have legal authority. Anong ibig sabihin ng legal authority? The authority is based on a written document. Diba? There is a basis of the authority. The authority can be found or the authority can be read in the different papers, diba? In the different books like constitutions, can be found in the different provisions of the laws. So those are authority. So yung authority nakikita natin is legitimate. It is because it is written. It is written in a certain document. So that's legal authority. Okay? Okay, napakabilis pala ng ating discussion. Okay, so those are the different types of political authority. Okay, so maybe this time let's have takeaways of what we have discussed. Though I know that medyo mabilis ang pagdi-discuss natin because this is a very simple discussion, and I hope that everybody everybody understands what we had discussed from the top kasi napakasimple lang naman ng discussion about political power. Okay, so maybe I will give you 3 minutes to think of your takeaways, and after which I'll be calling you, diba? Hindi tayo magtatawag mamaya, magtipin na lang tayo kung sino ang magbibigay ng takeaways. Okay? So I hope that everything in our learning outcomes has achieved, diba? Kasi first, balikan natin ang learning outcomes natin kung meron tayong hindi na-achieve dito. First, articulately define power. Diba? We actually define power based on various proponents on the definition of powers. Diba? We nakita natin doon that power can be a punishment, can be a reward. Power can be a legitimate authority according to social science and politics. And power, generally speaking, according to Morgenthau, is the ability of a man to control, diba? To control others. So I know that you have understood what power is all about, diba? Next, the features and dimensions and the exercise of the national power. So I hope that you have already understood what is power and influence. When do we say that the power is being used by force and the power is being used through influence? Pag sinabi nating force, then there must be a presence. The power is being used with the presence of physical force, punishment, police action, that sometimes may result into a war. And when we talk about power and influence, then the power is being used, is being used more democratic and more diplomatic. So it's just a matter of of persuasion in order to change the behavior of a certain state. So that is that tinatawag nating feature of of national power. And dimensions, we already discussed on what is military power, what is economic power, and what is psychological power. At kung paano nga ba naging inseparable ang tatlong dimensions of national power na ito. Diba? Actually sabi nga nila, I read in one book. Sabi nga nila, even people can be a source of national power. 'Di ba? Look at China. China has a lot of, has a billion of people. 'Di ba? Napakadaming tao ang China. And that is their asset as a nation. 'Di ba? Economically speaking, there's a lot of consumers in China. That is why, most of the countries cannot just inflict punishment to China. It is because China has the most number of consumers in the world. Kaya pwede din natin kasi nabasa ko lang sa isang libro that people can also be a source of national power. Okay? And lastly, the exercise or the methods of exercising national power, which, first is, through persuasion or um, this is also more diplomatic and more democratic through punishment, diba? By inflicting, economic sanctions, diba? By inflicting, uh, you know, um, um, punishment in different ways, diba? In different ways. And of course, we also have reward or offering rewards to, other countries, like economic reward, material, granting loans, giving economic aids, and etc. And lastly, through the use of force or through the use of physical violence. And sabi ko nga kanina, sometimes it may end up into war. But we can say that, that is tantamount to the use of military force, di ba? And with the use of military force, then the presence of war is there. And of course, the different types of political authority, di ba? Yung traditional, the charismatic, and the legal authority. Okay, so I hope that everything is clear to you. So I'll give you 3 minutes, 3 minutes to think of your takeaways, and whoever pinned in our Zoom will be the one to recite. So please, if you are being called to recite, please recite because recitations are recorded. So 3 minutes. Sir Sam ka? One minute more. Okay, siguro pwede na siguro. Wait lang ha, naghanap lang ako. Okay, so I pinned Mr. Leasing, Mr. De Los Reyes,
Sir, ako.
Miss Pangan, Miss Nicole Kalalang,
Yes po, sir.
Mr. Sunglao, sinusulat ko lang, Mr. Sunglao, and Mr. Beltran. Okay. So I think we shall start with Mr. Leasing. Mr. Leasing,
Yes, sir.
ano tayo ha? If you are being called to recite, please open your cam, no? Sige, Mr. Leasing.
Ano ba, sir?
Sabi ko na nga ba si Mr. Leasing hindi nakikinig eh. Next time Mr. Leasing sa susunod na klase natin, ilista ko dito sa susunod na klase
Sir,
natin.
may net ko kanina, sir. Naglalag ka.
Sa susunod na klase natin, mag-open cam ka ha for the entire duration.
Oo, sir. Naglalag ka po kanina.
Pinagbintaan mo ba kung naglalag no, Mr. Leasing no? Sige.
Yes, sir. May na-internet ko.
Okay. Sige, ano mo what is your takeaways? Anything that you remembered in our discussion? Sabi ko sa iyo Mr. Leasing.
Yung power. Power.
Sige, sige, just kahit na 2 sentence lang. Sige.
Ba?
Kahit 2 sentences lang. Ang sakit na ng lalamunan ko sa pagsasalita dito, Mr. Leasing. Hindi ka pala nakikinig.
Hindi ko, sir.
Sige, next, sige. Bibigyan kita ngayon. Pero next meeting, mag-open cam ka. Ikaw unang magbibigay ng takeaways. Para makita ko na nakikinig ka. Tinatawanan mo pa ako. Sige. Next meeting mag-open cam ka. Okay, next Mr. De Los Reyes.
Wait lang, sir. Wait lang po.
Sige po.
Yan, sir. Yung ano po yung feature tsaka dimension po ng national power, yung tatlo po. Yung economic power, military power, tsaka psychological power po. Kumbaga, kung walang economic power, walang military power, tsaka walang psychological power kung walang military power po. Yun po, sir.
Okay, thank you Mr. De Los Reyes. Okay, next. Miss Pangan. Wala na si Miss Pangan. Miss Kalalang.
Sir, yung tungkol sa political authority po. Yung,
Kalala,
yung,
mag-open cam tayo, Miss Kalala.
kaya po ma-open yung cam.
Sige.
Yung three types po, yung three types of legitimate authority, yung traditional, rational, and charismatic.
Okay, so what do you mean by sige. Mr. Songlao? Mr. Songlao?
Sir.
Oh.
Wait lang po, sir.
Mr. Songlao? Mr. Songlao, hindi ako sanay mag-antay. Masakit mag-antay. Alam mo yan.
Ano po, sir?
Mag-open ka ng cam, Mr. Songlao.
Sira po yung webcam ko, sir. Sa PC po kasi ako naka.
Sige.
Yung
Baka
sa
naman,
ano po.
baka naman lahat ng tinawag ko dito, sira na rin ang webcam. Sige, Mr. Songlao. Mr.
Yung
Songlao.
sa nature of power po.
Mm-hmm.
Yung marami pong meaning yung power depende po sa human relation.
Okay.
Tas it can be ano po sa ano. It can pwede po siyang ma-define as a use of force po.
Okay.
Para para makuha po yung desired goals ng isang nag-aasam po ng power.
Okay, meron pa, Mr. Songlao.
Wala na po.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Songlao. Next, Mr. Beltran.
Yes po, sir. Yung pong military power siguro, sir. Dahil sinisecure niya po tayo sa mga arm at saka po yung charisma, sir. Mas madali niya pong nape-persuade yung mga tao dahil sa lakas ng dating niya. Yun po, sir.
Parang lang yun, no? Parang liligaw lang yun, no? Lakas kasi ng dating ni Mr. Beltran kaya napapasagot niya agad-agad siya nililigawan niya
Wala, sir, single ko po yan, sir.
Mabuti. Sige, thank you.
Thank you po.
Miss Alicante, kasi pa nag-raise ka ng hand, kaya pinin kita kanina.
Thank you po. For today, we tackled a lot.
Miss Alicante,
Hello po.
Ibang cam mo?
Ay, sorry po. Ayan, sir. Sorry po, sa baba ako. Yun, we tackled a lot of things about...
Madilim. I'm sorry, Miss Alicante. Madilim ba dyan, Miss Alicante?
Yes po, nasa kwarto kasi may natutulog.
Okay, sige.
We define power, ability of a man to impose his or her will to get his desired goals or objectives. We also define national power. This is the ability of a nation or state to impose its will in order for it to secure the desired goals and objectives. And also, we tackled about methods of exercising national power. First is persuasion. This is how they convince other nations. Second is rewards. This is nations offering rewards, either economic, materials, or psychological, so that they can achieve desired goals through offering rewards. And third is by punishment. This is inflicting punishment over other states. And the last one is force or physical violence. Nation can impose physical force wherein it can be resulted to war. Yun lang po.
Okay, so thank you, Miss Alicante. Mr. Basilio.
Yes po, sir. Naubos na po, sir. Pero ano po, sir? So, short na lang po. Power is the ability to control other people po.
Okay, so power is the ability to control other people. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much. So, dali lang. Okay, so I hope that you have already, that everybody understood what we have discussed this day. So next meeting will be tackling another lesson or another topic, and I hope by next week, sana next week ay makapag-open cam na tayo, para makita natin kung sino talaga yung nakikinig at saka sino yung hindi. Siguro by next week yung mga hindi mag-open cam sila na lang yung magre-resign para sa atin, kasi we are not so sure if they are with us or not. So if you want to be exempted, or if you want not to be called in recitation, then you have to open your cam. But if you want to recite, then you can close your cam, because ang priority natin lagi starting next week na magre-recite ay ang mga naka-close cam. Okay? So next week we'll be having our quiz, and ang coverage po niyan is week 4. So I'll be publishing the module for week 4 this day, so that you can make advanced reading to it. And also I repeat that I have already published our activity for this day, so that you will be on next week. So I'm still open until 12 o'clock for our asynchronous session. So should you have any questions, queries, issues, or